on your journey, the path you must take. Though hate may surround you, it's not your fate to forsake. Co-creating your destiny in the dance of time. The guiding light within you ignites the sublime. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. In the depths of your being, the truth resides. Embrace your power, let your spirit rise. With every step forward, you transcend the expanded conscious community we commend. Through trials and triumphs, your soul evolves in the symphony of life, where every note resolves. Listen to the whispers of your inner voice. In unity and love, let your heart rejoice. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. As we gather together in this sacred space, embracing transformation with grace. Life coach Malachi leads the way in unlocking potential day by day. Embracing transformation with grace. Life coach Malachi leads the way, unlocking potential day by day.
And looked, and my video was gone. Hope y'all guys doing okay. We're gonna get this little situation under wraps. There it is. It looks kind of delayed now for some reason. Can you guys see me? Making sure you can see me. Who knows? It was working so great. Now it's all delayed. That's so weird. Well, we'll get it. We'll get this show on the road. Got to see what's going on here. Technical difficulties. I guess that's part of the deal. Let's see here. Hang in there, you guys. I appreciate you for stopping through, coming through. We're gonna get this show on the road. I don't know what the deal is. Reason why it decides to just stop working on me. Here we go. Okay. Now let's see if we are. There we go. Oh my goodness. The software is just wigging out. Probably if I would use a different camera. But I like my crispy, clean camera. I see some people in the building, in the room. It's so good to see you. Yes, I got a little bit of delay. Looks like it's happening now. I'll check into that. And who else who all do we have in here? Let's see. Miss Marie. Yep. We're enjoying that. Oh, Miss Deidre. Miss Holly. Brother John Thomas. All right. And Dr. Dorothy. Is it Tahimbe? Hopefully I said that right. Cool. Yeah, looks like I'm getting a little bit of delay. You guys probably, hopefully, if my mouth, let me know if my mouth is catching up and it doesn't look like crazy to you. Anyways, I won't be long. Last week, I'm still recovering from last week. If you watched last week, it was a 3-hour show. And people just kept pouring in late at night. It was 10:30 at night, and people were pouring in and listening to the conversation with Brother Cesar as we talk, as I dedicate this to. Okay, cool. Thank you, Mother. As I dedicate this month, we got 28 days. 28 days that has been chosen to validate the history and the existence of the African that was transported through ships as labor. And not only as labor, but also as a animal species considered a product. The Black American is here as a representation of a product. Regardless if a person says, they sold your people sold you. Well, there's some truth to it, but also we're using that to scapegoat the responsibility, liability, and the ongoing misrepresentation, hidden understanding history. And so I'm still in it. It's still February, something we have considered Black History Month. And at the time of this conversation, it appears that it's possible that they would want to kind of take it back, or figure out a way to let it go, figure out a way to not talk about it, because if you stop talking about it, then it goes away. We have discovered that doesn't work. And knowing who you are is one of the most important things you will hear, period. Know who you are. I'm sitting here looking in the comments because I'm looking for somebody to put in the comments, know who you are, or know who I am. And this goes to, because ultimately, we do go down into the oneness of understanding is where we want to arrive. But although I want to know the oneness of who I am, know the oneness of who we are as a species, as the human race, we still deal with the realities. There's multiple realities. But we still deal with the realities of what have taken place, what has taken place in this moment in time. It's cold here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, just like other places. And when I say cold, I'm talking about in the teens. Okay. To know who you are is to also know that you're human. And if you decide to go outside and it's in the low temperatures, and I really think it's down to, it's 11 degrees. So there's certain things that can take place if you're wet, especially if you go outside, to your body. And I think the degree of meditation and the degree of what you are able to be enlightened, to be a superhuman in order to beat the cold, it's possible. But generally, understanding, you might freeze. So we deal with the fact that if I go outside, I might freeze, no different than we deal with the fact that if laws and ideas of our history is hidden or covered up or gotten rid of, or all these things, what's going to happen is we're still going to be confused. We're still going to have an issue. So in dedicating some time, because I love expanded consciousness, and expanded consciousness for me very much fits the actual description of, if you were to look up expanded consciousness as a word, but the expanded consciousness is a broad term that describes a variety of states of consciousness, including heightened awareness, mystical experiences, and personal growth. See if I can. I know that just went to YouTube and on one of the Facebooks, but I think it's important that we understand right? The reason why I'm here and we are here to have these conversations. So we don't necessarily leave certain things out. And we do understand that we all come here on a understanding of belief. Everybody out there believe that? Like there's some level of connection we have based on what we believe. And now I can say also what we know. We believe and we know. Anybody out there know something? Do you know something? There's some things that I believe, but there's one thing that I know. It's cold outside. I don't believe it's cold. I know it's cold. So how do I take what I know and then what I believe and then formulate some level of understanding that goes beyond just my thinking? Come on, y'all. It's definitely a teaching moment. And the thing about me is, I want you to know this is that we unlearning things, and then also I believe that there's a lot that we all already know, and then there's a lot that I may say, and I say it because I believe that it should resonate with you, and it's just basically um, um, something that is at a level or a vibration of a frequency, right? And that vibration, that frequency of that knowledge or that understanding comes back to you, and you receive it, and it raises or lifts. Come on. Expanding our consciousness beyond belief. If you look at the headline, right? If you look at the headline news, there is a lot going on. Always has been, but in this time, there is a lot going on, and there's a lot of questions that people may have. Good questions. One of the things that I want to help us with this evening is being able to understand, being able to connect and know who we are. Because as you know who you are, you also might understand who someone else may think that they are. What is the saying? Who you think you are? Telling me. Come on. Enlightenment in the Enlightenment age was a time in history when the consciousness of individual people would be at a level of understanding that would allow people in belief systems to be something that I would say is primitive. And I'm here to tell you there is a lot of primitive thinking happening even today. We get advanced because we get cell phones and we get all these different things that makes us feel advanced. You know, we get better cars, we have so many different modern things that make us feel like we're advanced. And we are in comparison to over the last 500 years, let alone 2,500 years, 3,000 or 5,000 years. Pretty sure there were some bright people for the time and day that you can measure. But if you look at what in comparison, what we have to manage and what we have to do and how we do it, the species has changed. The species is changing. And it's still co-creating and still trying to get used to itself. And it still can be driven by a lot of ego. And belief has been the foundation of who we are, especially when it comes to religion, faith, and who's right or who's wrong. Do I have some people in the room with me? If you desired, right? I'm gonna chase I'm gonna chase a little rabbit, right? Gonna go down a little rabbit hole. There are more there are more social media influencer theologians than you can imagine, and they're not even theologians. So there's people battling out scripture and they have no training whatsoever, or they have very limited training. And the only thing that they're fighting, I don't have a plug here. They're sitting back and they're fighting issues and speaking on issues that are not edifying, that are not growing. Actually, they're having a adverse effect to the consciousness. That's a bar. Write that down. It's having an adverse effect to the consciousness. So even though you want to tune into what's going on at times, but I'm here to tell you, I promise you, you got to balance on what you're taking in, because it's going to have literally, you can hear something. Matter of fact, it is, I'm not going to look it up and show you the proof, but I believe there's a Pew Research that says it's not just watching social media, right? It's not just scrolling through social media that is a negative effect to the dopamine related to your body, and the other effects of just scrolling. But the true negative effects comes from the stupid content. Literally, is it saying that it's like when you take in the dumb content, it literally is making you dumber. When you get people to believe versus no, when you have the whole entire population that is believing in God and believing in God to the point where that becomes like the first thing, believing in God, believing in your faith, believing in specifically Christian faith, believing in whenever that becomes the number one, that means that you can literally take like common knowledge and throw it out the window, because it's like you're going to have faith and you're going to believe that God is going to help you when your ass is outside and it's cold and all you got to do is turn around and come in the house. But you're so engulfed and so lost in the fact that this belief system let's take a little bit of a time and let's just listen to someone speak on enlightenment. Can we do that? Let's listen to someone speak on enlightenment. Not long.
I am. Is it clear to you that you are?
Yeah. Yeah. Is it that simple? I mean,
Exactly. That's the problem, you see. You doubt. You're expecting, because of you've obviously read some spiritual literature and probably too much. And you've heard all these exotic descriptions of enlightenment, all these, all the paraphernalia that surrounds the religious and spiritual traditions, all of which send a message that enlightenment, salvation, and awakening is something exotic and extraordinary and so foreign to this ordinary mundane realm in which we live. Enlightenment is the recognition of the nature of your being. It is the least exotic experience there is.
I want y'all to get this. Right now, this room is not packed. Get up to 30 some people, right? Right now, there's 12 between all things. So I want everyone that's listening to me, to the sound of my voice, to know right now that if you're listening to expanded consciousness beyond belief, with today's conversation, as I'm talking about the beginning of an enlightened age, we already have been enlightened, and it's just stacking on top of each other. And right now, it's a high point of you able to achieve and to manifest, and it's like an envelope, right? And you can just literally just slip into the cracks because of the ignorance is so high. We're going to go from woke to awaken. Woke to awaken? I want to see that. Everybody, they want to take the word woke, turn it into wokeism. I get it. It's easy to dog whistle it. It's really not that big of a deal when you start talking about enlightenment. You are enlightened. You are enlightened. And how you get enlightened? Let's go back real quick. Let's see what he said about getting enlightened.
Recognition of the nature of your being, realm in which we live. Enlightenment is the recognition of the nature of your being. It is the least exotic experience there is. Even the taste of tea is, by comparison, exotic. And not only is your being not something extraordinary, unknown, hard to find, reserved only for a few special individuals. The reason you haven't quite yet recognized your own being is precisely because it is so close, so simple, so familiar, so intimate, that you're looking too far ahead of you.
Come on.
You're looking
It's here.
beyond your being. You're looking.
Everybody
You're looking
breathe
for
and
something
take this in.
extraordinary. And so you always feel, I haven't quite got it. I haven't quite found it. What is
here.
everybody else? What are they all referring to? What am I missing? No. How can you be missing your being? The only reason you're missing your being is because you're looking in front of you. All that is being spoken of is the nature of your being, not some extraordinary, mystical, enlightened being, just the ordinary, intimate, obvious, familiar.
You should feel it.
Being that enables each of us to say with absolute certainty, I am.
I am. You are.
Is there a single person in the world that could not say from their experience, I am? Everybody can say that. Not just a few enlightened people. Everybody, 8 billion of us can say, I am. It's true that not everybody yet knows clearly what that statement refers to. Why? Because their being is mixed with the content of experience. So whilst everyone has the experience of being myself, not everybody knows their self clearly. Not everyone knows their self. For most people, if you ask them about their experience of themselves, they won't just say, I am. They will say, I am sad. They won't just say, I am. They'll say, I'm 47 years old. They won't just say, I am. They'll say, I'm the mother of 3 children. They won't just say, I am. They say, I'm cold or tired or hungry. They always refer to themselves, I am. But their statement of themselves is always mixed with, and as a result, qualified by some aspect of their experience, which makes them feel, I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm tired, I'm a mother, and so on. So they know their self. That's what enables them to say, I am a mother, 47, cold, tired, hungry, whatever. But their experience of themselves is so mixed up with their objective experience that they don't yet know themselves clearly.
I hope, listen, this is part of the divine authentic self-teaching that I'm working on. Oh my God. Oh my God. Separating between your experience of who you are versus knowing that I don't have to, I could cut that off because it's not important at this moment. Like when I'm cold outside, it's important that I don't be cold. But once I'm not cold, settling in, because I am cold, I am hot. That's objective to our experience. So you are observing that I'm cold. I'm observing that I'm black. I'm observing. And the reason why I'm taking us here is because although we see what's going on in the world, we can observe what we may be feeling and what we may be going through, and we have to deal with it at that time. Miss Deidre, who is one of the best people in the world, experienced a car accident but as she recovers and as she goes through, you could separate the experience from the fact that I know I went through that, but am I going to be stuck into what I experienced with that? And what do we call that? Right? If you get locked in or stuck as you experience something traumatic in the brain, we call that trauma. And with trauma, you can have things like post-traumatic stress syndrome. And with post-traumatic stress syndrome, from what a person may go through when it comes to understanding what it may be like to be a woman, what it may be like to be Black, what it may be like, etc., etc., etc. Yes, but I have to result and come back to the I am. I can't get too lost as I begin to navigate the world, because it can get locked in, where then you end up having what we call this a post-traumatic stress syndrome. And what religion can do to you, because it's dealing with belief, and then these beliefs have a lot of overbearingness of whether you're going to heaven or whether you're going to hell or whether you're doing it right or whether you fornicating, and all these things that are locked into who you, it's locked into your psyche. It's not locked into the I am. It's locked to the I am this, I am that. I am addicted. Do you know your guilt and shame? I was telling someone this. Guilt and shame is something can be locked into you, and you want to feel the guilt and shame and don't even know it. You're accepting it and want to feel the guilt and want to feel the shame. And then you'd be like, oh, I feel so guilty. Oh my God, how do I get rid of this? You want to feel it. Your body is wanting you to feel it. World's smallest violin. When we move into this expanded state of awareness and consciousness, we can begin to understand that I am. And when we make mistakes, I am. You might say, I am facing the consequences. If you decide to rob a bank and we have a law stated that if you do this, then we have to have this. You might have to deal with the consequences in this reality. But hopefully you can expand your awareness and your consciousness and to know that you don't need to rob a bank. You don't have to do the things that can cause physical harm or do the things that cause harm to you. You are already literally enlightened.
They don't know the pure I am when it is their objective experience, that they don't yet know themselves clearly. They don't know the pure I am when it is relieved of the qualities that it borrows from experience.
And don't we, I mean, isn't that always going to be part of this human experience? Like even when I am aware knowingly, it's still going to be colored by having a form, is it not?
Now, take the thought I am now. Just close your eyes. Have the thought I am. And then go to the experience in yourself to which those words refer.
I'm struggling for sensations.
Hmm?
If there's sensation, I mean, there are perceptions, there's
Well,
not.
if your experience just consisted of sensations and perceptions, then when I ask you about yourself, you would pause and you would go, there are thoughts, there are sensations, there are perceptions, but you don't say that. You say, I am thinking, I am feeling, I am seeing.
Gotcha.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Are you getting that? Are you getting it? Even though I titled this evening to the beginning of an enlightenment age from awoke to awaken, there's another talk that I'm working on that talks about the genocide of a culture and the erasure of independent thought. If anything, if you can get rid of a culture, they say the problem is the culture, but if you can get rid of a culture and people begin to assimilate what you envision of what you want people to be, because the powers that be, especially when it comes to who we are, have been used to human beings being robots. And if they don't do what they're told, in today's spaces, in order for you to survive, you got to have money, and you're surviving with making money, and your money comes from a job, and your job comes from doing a task or a skill that provides to the world in some kind of fashion, and you're part of this ecosystem. But to the ones that have the most, they want to control all of it. Okay? And they want to control you. It's the reason why we have to have spiritual independence, and you have to have autonomy, and then it has to be more than discernment, folks. Done is the day where it's like, I have discernment. Those days are over. Where you talking about you have discernment, because you be discerning the wrong thing. There's something happening, and I want you to see this. There's something really that's happening, and it's been happening, but I want you to be able to put words to it. Okay? There's a book that has been written by a guy, and he speaks on it. And I want you to see that this guy here, Mr. Lopez, wrote a book literally many years ago called The Dog Whistle of Politics. And hopefully I have that set at the time. We'll just do just this front part here.
That's $36 per month for a family of 4. Now more cuts are on the way as lawmakers finalize a new farm bill that stalled in Congress last year. It's widely reported the plan will cut another $9 billion from food stamps over the next decade, depriving more than 800,000 households of up to $90 in aid per month. According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, food stamps now average less than $1.40 per person per meal this year. The new proposal represents a compromise between a Republican plan to cut food stamps by $39 billion and a Democratic plan to cut them by $4 billion. The new cuts would follow another major blow to those relying on government assistance, the congressional failure
This
to
is
extend
11
the
years
unemployment
ago.
benefits that expired last month.
Cuts to social programs are old hat in U.S. politics. We're joined now by an author whose new book explores one of the key ways that's come to be known. The book is called Dog Whistle Politics, How Coded Racial Appeals Have Reinvented Racism and Wrecked the Middle Class. Law professor Ian Haney-Lopez explores how politicians have long used veiled racism to lure white voters into supporting politics that favor the wealthy and hurt the poor and middle class across ethnic lines. Professor Lopez traces this trajectory from the Southern strategy that emerged in the 60s through the Reagan-led attacks on welfare in the 80s, continued under President Clinton a decade later. And he explores how dog whistle politics remain today, from the denigration of Muslims and Latino immigrants to bolster the national security state to the use of old stereotypes to preserve longstanding attacks on social welfare. Ian Haney-Lopez is a law professor at the University of California, Berkeley, focusing on the area of racial justice in the U.S. legal system. He also may be the only person who lays claim to being a classmate of President Obama on 2 separate occasions, in high school in Hawaii and years later as law students at Harvard Law School. Welcome to Democracy Now! Talk about the title, Dog Whistle Politics.
Dog whistle politics, I think, is a term that's out there in the conversation, but I don't think the meaning has really gelled. It says, look, politics now is occurring in coded terms, like a dog whistle. On one level, we hear clearly there's a sense of racial agitation. On another level, plausible deniability. People can insist nothing about race at all. And so classic examples, Reagan and welfare queens, or Newt Gingrich saying Obama is a food stamp president. Now, on one level, that's triggering racial sentiment, triggering racial anxiety. On another, of course, Newt Gingrich can turn around and say, I didn't mention race, I just said food stamps. In fact, he can go further and say, it's a fact, as if there isn't a sort of a racial undertone there.
During the 2012 Republican primary, Newt Gingrich was widely accused of employing the so-called Southern strategy to appeal to the prejudice of white voters in the South. At the Republican debate, Fox News moderator Juan Williams questioned Newt Gingrich about his description of President Obama as the food stamp president. This was Gingrich's response.
The fact is that more people have been put on food stamps by Barack Obama than any president in American history. I know among the politically correct, you're not supposed to use facts that are uncomfortable.
That's Newt Gingrich.
Right. And I think, so what's important, so people have a sense that this sort of politics is out there, but they also think it's marginal, maybe vestigial, a throwback to sort of old Southern race baiting from 50 years ago. And the point of this book is to say, this isn't vestigial. This is central to Republican politics today. And this is, this is how conservatives are wrecking the middle class. They're using these sort of coded appeals to say to people 2 things. One, the biggest threat in your life is not concentrated wealth, it's minorities. And two, government coddles minorities, and all these government assistance programs, it's all about giveaways to minorities. Oppose them. Government's taking your taxes and giving it to undeserving minorities. So when we think about why it is that so many people would, in the midst of an economic crisis, would vote to slash taxes for the rich, to favor deregulation, and to slash social services, partly, in fact, I'd say primarily, they're doing so because of the sort of racial narrative employed with dog whistle politics.
This started, though, bipartisan with George Wallace, who was a Democrat,
right.
and also with Barry Goldwater, who was a Republican. Can you talk about these two campaigns back in the 60s?
Sure. I mean, I think it's important to note that it starts with George Wallace in the sense of saying, listen, there's nothing inherent in republicanism that's associated with racism. We need to be very clear about that. In fact, in 1960, before all of this really got underway, 29% of African Americans identified as Republican, right? Both parties in 1960 were similarly supportive of civil rights. But what happens is politicians begin to look around for a way to get elected, and they realize race baiting can do that. And so you have George Wallace, a Democrat. He runs as a racial moderate initially in 1958, and he loses. After he loses, he has this incredible moment. He's about to give his concession speech, and he turns to his cronies. He's leaving the car, and he says to his cronies, "No other son of a bitch is ever going to out-nigger me again." And what he means is, I've just lost to somebody who ran as a racial reactionary. I'm going to run as a racial reactionary, and that's what he sets out to do. And when he does, he wins. And it's this moment where it becomes clear using race can help you win elections. It goes from George Wallace to Barry Goldwater, a Republican candidate. He uses race. He loses nationally. He wins in the South, right? So there's nothing inherent in republicanism, but it becomes a tactic that is most closely associated with Republicans.
Let's go to Ronald Reagan, 1980 speech, Neshoba County Fair in Mississippi, just a few miles from Philadelphia, Mississippi, the site of the 1964 murders of the civil rights activists James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner. This was Reagan's first speech after accepting the Republican nomination for president. He proclaimed his fidelity to states' rights.
I believe in states' rights. I believe in people doing as much as they can for themselves at the community level and the private level. And I believe that we've distorted the balance of our government today by giving powers that were never intended in the Constitution to that federal establishment.
States' rights. And before you respond to that, I wanted to bring it up to today. This is Republican Senator Marco Rubio of Florida speaking just last week when he outlined sweeping changes to the federal government's anti-poverty programs.
Our current president and his liberal allies, what they propose to address this, their proposal is let's spend more on these failed programs and let's increase the minimum wage to $10.10. This is their solution to what the president has called the defining issue of our time? Raising the minimum wage may poll well, but having a job that pays $10 an hour is not the American dream. And our current government programs, at best, offer only a partial solution. They help people deal with poverty, but they do not help people emerge from poverty. Therefore, what I am proposing today is the most fundamental change to how the federal government fights poverty and encourages upward mobility since President Johnson first conceived the war on poverty 50 years ago today. I am proposing that we turn over Washington's anti-poverty programs and the trillions that are spent on them to the states. Our anti-poverty program should be replaced with a revenue-neutral flex fund. We would streamline most of our existing federal anti-poverty funding into a single agency.
It's beyond that. It's beyond that. This was 11 years ago. So this is nothing new that we have been facing or dealing with when it comes to language. I don't want you just to go deep into politics right now on this, right? It seems, though, that it can lead to thinking about politics. But I'm using words. And words have power. And so what we're doing is when we think about enlightenment, It's not even a discernment that that's just part of your nature. I am. And sometimes you can ask the question to a person, are you? What he was talking about in this right here, it's so far beyond that. They're just like, kill it and we don't need it to come back. Here's the thing. They're not talking to themselves. They're talking to people that believe. People that believe. And the thing is they believe in it's like they believe in this arbitrary God that is out there that you can't control. He's in control of everything. And we got these people that are called to say what thus says the Lord. And they use this book, this magical book that everybody else needs to read. And only certain people can have a understanding to get what the original texts say, and blah, 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 blah. What does that leave us with, right? So it's a bunch of fantasy. It's a bunch of fantasy. Whether you want to say how deep, true each statement or story is, we know that there's just a bunch of allegories and there's a bunch of parables, and we make it out to so it's easy. It's easy to tell you and to do things to you that are there that when you can't read, when you can't see. So check this out. Check this out. You know what the key word is, and I'm not going to go there, but the key word right now is everything was led by DEI. DEI, we knew that it had nothing to do with, if you look at it, it has zero to do with merit-based pay. Zero to do with merit-based pay. We could get off of Trump and get off of that. Let's think about the people that says, yeah, there are some deeply seated, traumatic programs that we're running that we could say, like I was talking about belief, like I'm talking about God, like I'm talking about the Bible. And it has been triggered and placed inside our consciousness so deep that when we say it, click, click, click. You could take somebody right now that's 25, 35 years old and not really into the church, and you could just talk about that stuff, and it just automatically, the lies. What did you say? He said, God, you need to go to church. Yeah, I need to go to church. Like instantly you just go into this zombie mode. Because spirituality either has been demonized, or spirituality itself, going back to what enlightenment is, has made it so deep and so far-fetched and so religious. And the thing is he's going to talk black because we're dealing with Black History Month. But I'm here to tell you, if you look at, especially here in the mid, what we call is the mid-South, and then you have the South, which is the primary people that actually are, that can be misguided a little bit more. Really, it's everywhere. He's talking about black, but I'm here to tell you, it's more than that.
It's only recently they've been really able to break us down. The period when we thought they had broken us down, they didn't break us down. We still had our thing. It's in the last 20, 30 years that they've been able to break us in ways they weren't able to break us during slavery, because they break us here. In slavery, they were breaking our bodies. But in the contemporary time, they're breaking our spirits.
Do you believe illiteracy is being weaponized in America today?
Oh, absolutely. I believe that illiteracy is being weaponized because if you can deny a child access to education, which means you're denying him access to the training and the tooling that would allow him to find employment or to open a business of his own, or to be able to join a corporate structure and make a living for their family, then you have created, you have created an underclass.
Permanent underclass.
A permanent underclass, which you then can control. And what you've put in place for the underclass is a penal system. And so whether they're in the prison itself or they're out on parole, they're still under your control and manipulation. And you're making money off of them, both in the prison and out of prison. Your population is employed as the judge, as the lawyer, as the policeman, as the probation officer, as the correction officer, as the nutritionist in the prison. You make the uniform for the guards. You have a whole industry around an impoverished population. So it is economically good for you to keep people impoverished, while at the same time you're controlling the competition to your group.
Right, I was just about to go there in regards to it's what I've really been analyzing because with the literacy thing, right? One, you're limited to the information you can get.
Right.
It's either your peers or what you're getting through media, right?
And so what does literacy do is help you to control who could compete with you.
Facts.
For running the society, for improving the society. And if you go back through the history of North America, just North America, we won't even go to the Caribbean and England where we've lived, and you will see that 70% of the inventions to 75%, and I'm being modest, that has created the technocracy that we live in comes from African people. An oppressed African population. What if that was a free population?
Did you hear that? Because they were slaves, they're out there doing work, and then they wanted to make it easier to do the work, built the White House. They were inventors coming from Africa. They were inventors. When you had slave owners were, especially in the South, were just crop sharers, and they were just farmers. Just farmers. Like, hey, you want you a couple of products, right? Slaves.
You know what I'm saying? The oppressed population has produced 75% of the inventions that make your technocracy works. Okay, from the touch-tone phone to the mobile phone to the laptop computer to the internet, video games, and it goes on to the probe that you sent to Mars, to the mathematics that allows you to first go into space and to do the moon landing. All of that technology comes from African peoples. An oppressed African population, not free to learn and study and express themselves literately in the world.
I'm here to tell you, here's the crazy thing. We're beyond even just dealing with an oppressed population because we only count for 13%. Now you have to oppress the entire population with consciousness. And you got to keep digging into them and into their PTSD, post-traumatic, or their post-traumatic slave syndrome. That is an actual thing, post-traumatic slave syndrome, post-traumatic civil rights syndrome, right? The people that are voting for certain things or actually saying, yes, do that, have to have some kind of disconnection to who they are as a being. completely, totally disconnected. And this disconnection, I'm not sure if you noticed, but it's in the context. Excuse me. It's in the context of the language. If you want to waste a lot of your life and watch something like a Christian apologist and and other theologians sit back and talk about what the context of the Bible versus the archived text that have been found over the years and how they match and what do they say, and a person that's translating and if it means what it means. And it's like the only reason why we have to have it that we can actually call people out on what we believe is because of the fact that we've been told so many things for so many years, and come to find out that white Jesus on there was never white, but we never really had the conversations because what difference does it make? Well, it makes a difference whenever you are not the person in the picture. When you're the person in the picture, it may not make a difference to you. Not saying I need it to be me, but why does it have to be you? Why did they originally make it to be you? Why is it that you can't see that everything around this world is ran and in this country is ran in the context of the majority of what you think? And the added contribution of everyone else. We are enlightened. And the biggest fear and the biggest threat on a system that has been here for a long time is enlightenment, is consciousness, is being able to have spiritual autonomy, being able to let whatever they say go and be comfortable with it, and to be comfortable with telling other people, you know what? You could do what you do, but if you ever think about crawling out of the rabbit hole, and you ever think about what you're really called to do, if you ever think about who you really are, if you ever think about the freedom and the fulfillment that can happen to you when you don't have to actually have this constant weight, this constant pressure, because you don't know who you are, because you think you know who you are. It's like being a child in a family and you looking at yourself in the mirror and you like, why do I not look like my brothers and sisters? Why is it that my brother and my sister is white? Oh, wait. They said I'm Hawaiian. I'm part Hawaiian. That's why. Oh, okay. So you live this life, and I'm telling you this because this comes from a actual true story. And it's the story of Miss Lacey Tisno. Lacey Tisno. And she was raised in a racist town in Texas. And her mother, long story short, ended up adopting her to her white father because he wanted a child. He ends up dying. She ends up being raised by her grandmother and grandparents, and she has a great life, even though she's in this town, hair kinky and everything else. But through her life, she knew that there was something off. She goes to college. Some black people basically says, I'm sorry, but you're black. And she never knew she was really black. So she lived a whole entire life not being black, goes to college, come back, find out she's black. So she starts digging, look, I think birth certificate, start digging. Comes to find out her mother's still alive. She finds her mom. The whole crazy part of the story is they put that her mom was white on the birth certificate. So they put that she was white on the birth certificate. So they went through hoops to make her this. And then she finds out she's black. Who are you? So the whole point of when you take breaths and when you do meditation, to reach some of the highest or to reach the expandedness of what meditation is, I have this little chart. I don't know if it'll show it right. But you have conscious, right, in this circle. Then you have the subconscious mind. And then you have the unconscious mind. Okay? So in the conscious mind is where you deal with where he was talking about the thoughts. That's where your limited belief systems is, self-esteem, judgment, your likes, your dislikes, right? That's your conscious mind. That's your beta brain waves. And mindfulness is something that can bring you connected to those thoughts, even your body. But then when you begin to go using meditation, you can go into the subconscious mind. And then later, as you go deeper into this process, there's other things you can do. You can go into what we call is the unconscious mind. There's a famous quote that I like, and I always quote it, and it says, Carl Jung, it says, making the unconscious conscious. I think it's make the unconscious conscious, and it will, Jesus. It's the unconscious conscious. So basically, it's talking about making your unconscious mind, when you make your unconscious mind, when you make your unconscious mind conscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it fate. So your unconscious mind will direct your life, and then all of a sudden you just call it fate, right? So if you're feeling a certain way about your life right now, it's like your unconscious mind is running things. Until you make the unconscious conscious, until you make what's unconscious, the behaviors and the patterns and the what you don't know. And I don't care how old you are. You have some unconscious behaviors that are there. Until you make that unconscious come up to the conscious, that unconscious mind will direct your life. And then you'll sit back and just call it fate. Like, yeah, I guess that's what it is. I know we're going through some things, and I'm going through a lot here. But I just want you to know, and I won't be with you. Give me another 30 minutes, right? We live in an age and time where you can think about it when the word woke is turned into a weapon. A weapon that initially had a meaning to being aware, to being almost conscious and aware of a behavior and patterns of these people that was doing something. It was related to systematic oppression. But knowing that you can use certain words with certain people that can, it's called dog whistling. You can use certain words with certain people, and you can say thug, you can say welfare queen, you can say, right? You can use these different words. You can do salutes, right? And say, I was giving my heart. But it's going to resonate with the deeply seated, unconscious that you're going to call pride. What we are witnessing today is not a cultural suppression. It is a genocide of the mind. It is the erasure of our independent thought, and it is the manipulations of belief and a tool that you can use to control. You know, I would say the greatest deception of all this is it's the belief that we must rely on an external system to define what reality is. Say it again. The greatest deception, make sure you get this. The greatest deception of all of this is that the belief that we have to rely on an external system to define what reality is. You can extort, you can do all kinds of things. So now is the time that we break free from the belief systems designed to limit us and to tap into the true essence of consciousness. I'm going to talk deeply later more on this genocide, but this genocide is a genocide now, as you heard the professor say earlier, and he was talking about the bodies that were beaten. And don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. Black people were beat and hung. But white people that want us to not talk about those things and us to get over those things don't want to tell you and other white people about the white people that they did that to, that they hung, that they whipped, if they got caught doing things. There are times that they would publicly want to display to other white people what happens to you if you are a white person and you help these people. We want to make it evident and clear. That's a whole nother thing. But the genocide is not always to the body. Sometimes it is about your ideas. Because if you think about the system now with DEI, it becomes illegal for you to actually not have a conversation about inclusion. It's illegal to have a conversation about diversity. It's illegal to have a conversation about equity. But yet, though, I go under the guise to say this conversation is just about merit-based systems and giving people unfair advantages or opportunities because they are a minority. That's easy for you to get lost in the sauce because of the fact that you have given your power to an external system and you cannot internally check. We're witnessing something that wants to erase people's history. It wants to erase our knowledge, and it wants to erase our autonomy and our ability to think for ourselves. And you know, this ain't nothing new. This is the thing. That was 2011 when I showed you the clip about the dog whistle politics. And over the last 400 years, through civil rights and everything else, as we have made certain triumphs, I want you to know America has mastered its ability to use these systems against us, all of us. The most dangerous thing to this system is that it is not an armed revolution. People want to start talking about civil war, and they want to use the Second Amendment as a freedom when this is the biggest weapon right now. This is the biggest weapon right now. This is the biggest weapon right now. It's the mind that is truly free, no matter who you are, what color you are, male, female, boy, child. Because if you control how people think, you never have to control their bodies. If you look at how Black history has been handled, we have to fight just to have a discussion about the past. We have to fight just to have a discussion about the past. So me dedicating this moment in time and this month, these 28 days, these 4 conversations, and I might still bring it up. It's a point where you have to have a fight to have a conversation. And when people have these conversations, when we just open up, we're told that this is divisive. We're told that you're just playing a victim. I'm playing a victim because of the fact that I'm having a conversation about the lived experience. Because the lived experience versus the consciousness, the lived experience versus the being versus the I am, I can separate them, brother. I can separate them, sister. I can separate them. But when we get down to the heart, that's where they come together. That's in this form of this reality. I want you to ask yourself. I want them to ask. I want people to ask, what do you think? And why was the Tulsa race massacre hidden for so long? You asked. I want to just know. If it's been divisive, I'm just asking a question. Why was it hidden? Why do we justify the inclusion of Black history in schools while European and American history is just taught without a question? Why is the language, why is the spirituality in what we choose, why is it being policed? You know it's not an accident. It's very intentional. Because when people forget their history, and then when you have a whole population forget their history, when you have all the people that don't realize that there's a spiritual autonomy that you can have, all of a sudden, everybody forgets their true power. Because when you tap into that power, it's more powerful than anything you can imagine. Now we're getting into the superhumanities. You want to really start seeing some true miracles and some things that begin to align. Let's get into this deep stuff. Let's go in some deep, crazy meditations. Let's start going into some spaces. Come on. I'm going to just let you know this ain't about race. That's just kind of the obvious thing because I'm talking about Black history. And it's Black History Month. I'm talking about our existence. I'm talking about humanity. It is said that America is doomed to implode. IMPL, right? Like the Roman Empire. And they're saying it's due. Sometimes people can, I think last week I said it's the last hoorah, right? Ah, when a system seeks to dominate, it's not oppressing just us, y'all. It's not oppressing just one group. You just use it so that you can get other people to do the bidding. And the sad thing and the sad truth is the whole system in government is kind of been how it's been and messed up. And neither party has really truly dug deep down to fix a lot of the core issues. And yes, there is a lot of crazy spending. So it's easy to take some of the truths and then override it. It's not about oppressing one group. It's about oppressing consciousness. And it forces a belief before knowledge. When belief comes before knowledge, people will end up confused. And in confusion, you have control. So I can make up a whole bunch of stuff and say it and then retort, then bring it back. I can send out a bunch of messages. We're experiencing the colonization of the mind and the weaponization of belief. The greatest tool of control is not violence. It's indoctrination. If you can control what people believe, you'll never, ever have to force them to obey. This is an old tool of colonization that was learned over centuries by the Arabs. How to control people, their own people, and how they would do it to the blacks, Africans. And then Europe comes and works with the Arabs. This whole system and this whole business. They didn't just take land. They took the ability to think independently. The slave Bible was designed to give you just enough. But anything that's talking about rising up against authority was removed. One of the biggest things that ever happened, and this is probably one of the only places you'll hear some of these things when it comes to Black history, and what it has done to a people that happen to be African slaves. They made literacy illegal because reading leads to critical thinking. And critical thinking is one of the biggest things that has been used and still yet it is used. It's the reason why they're demonizing colleges. Colleges have their problems because of money, and how they do money. But they demonize college because it's a place where a person could learn critical thinking. I speak English, and when the people of Africa came over, the language was removed. They erased the language because language is power. I'm here using words. My background in degrees, psychology, special education, 10 years doing that level of work. Bachelor's in mass communications with an emphasis in multimedia and technology. My master's is in business with an emphasis in marketing. My executive coaching, master spiritual coaching, group coaching, NLP, I have a lot of different things. I'm only telling you things not to impress you, but impress upon you that those things can be a problem. And I think one of the greatest things as we next week will be the end essentially to Black History Month. May still have conversations, but the biggest thing is African spirituality was demonized because that connection to the divine within makes the external control impossible. And the thing is, out of all these things, it hasn't been necessarily stopped. It just has evolved. They banned the books. And if they don't ban books, they rewrite the books. Education won't necessarily be forbidden, but they'll make it inaccessible and then try to govern what's been taught. The freedoms that we have to start businesses and do things, it won't be outlawed, but it will be redefined. And people will begin to accept the limitations as its normal part of life. So I'm here to tell you, no matter who you are, what age you are, go into the I am who you are. Be who you are. Become all of who you are. Be scientific and spiritual. One of the people that I will refer to, I got a few people, and one of them is here, Barbara Marx Hubbard. And Barbara Marx Hubbard spoke about, this is conscious evolution, but she spoke of evolution as basically the next great awakening of human consciousness. And what this is about is, how do we evolve? We know that we evolve, but how do we add consciousness, levels of consciousness to government, levels of consciousness to education, levels of consciousness to business and economics, level of consciousness to environment, science, spirituality, and religion? How do we move to the next level of this space? And I believe 100% we're living in one of the greatest opportunities, Because we know the system doesn't want evolution. It lives on stagnation. So we know that there's a system that's systematically that wants to destroy and do what it's done to brown and black lives. But I'm here to tell you there is a system for miraculous healing. You know, there is. Because if we know that people can evolve beyond belief, if we start questioning everything, and you know, the most dangerous thing is that we are divine beings and that we are creators of our own reality. This is why mysticism, indigenous knowledge, spiritual autonomy, it's why it's so demonized. Because when people realize, I'm telling you, when they realize their power and stop being controlled, we can go from woke, paying attention to what's going on, right? I see what you're doing. I'm going to call you out. Okay. But we're going to move into awakening. We're going to go into awakening. We're reclaiming the thoughts of consciousness. We're going to teach the hidden histories and hidden stories. We're going to decolonize belief systems and decolonize the mind, deconstruct our realities. That's this whole thing is what we're doing. We're going to empower ourselves with understanding that there's a language and there's a system. Embrace the evolution. Embrace the evolution. When you see woke, it says, I see the problem. When you see awakening, it says, I transcend the illusion. When you see woke, it's fighting the system. When you see awaken, it's stepping outside of it entirely. When you see woke, it acknowledges the oppression. When you see awaken, it dissolves it into a power by knowing who you truly are. So I ask you the question, what do you believe? Why do you believe it? And how do those beliefs add to or subtract to the quality of who you are? Are you ready to move beyond belief? Are you truly ready to expand your consciousness? Because awakening, it's not about just knowing the truth, y'all. It's about living it. It's about being it. It is a beautiful, beautiful moment in time to grow and to be. The moment you step into your power, no system, no belief, no external force can control you again. Deep breaths in your nose. Deep breaths, deep breaths. It's an empowerment time. I am. Yes. Be empowered. Be set free. Just say to yourself, I am. I am. I am. You are so beautiful. Be empowered. Be empowered. Know who you are. It seems like a journey, but I'm here to tell you, learning is really unlearning. Because you already know something. You already are who you are. And the enlightenment of who you are is when you learn to be. Be in the moment, be in this time. Blessings to you guys. Blessings. Thank you guys so much. My greatest fear is not that we are inadequate, but that we are powerful beyond measure. Brother Clapp, I appreciate you. Miss Velma, I am. Miss Holly, I appreciate you. Miss Marie, breathe, love, expand, I am. Oppression of the subconscious and consciousness mindset of people that have faced so much through slavery, religion, and politics have done so much trauma to African Americans. Yes, it has. That is a complex post-traumatic stress, and some would call it post-traumatic slave syndrome. There is a real thing that's been studied. We're empowered over here. We're empowered. Thank you guys so much. So much. I think Miss Deidre has mentioned Patreon community, expanded consciousness. We will chat this weekend on this Saturday. There that I appreciate everyone that's here, everyone that stopped by. And until next week, you guys have a good one. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
journey, the path you must take. Though hate may surround you, it's not your fate to forsake. Co-creating your destiny in the dance of time. The guiding light within you ignites the sublime. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. In the depths of your being, the truth resides. Embrace your power, let your spirit rise. With every step forward, you transcend the expanded conscious community we commend. Through trials and triumphs, your soul evolves in the symphony of life, where every note resolves. Listen to the whispers of your inner voice. In unity and love, let your heart rejoice. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. It is the light, the guiding light from the heart and soul. Don't lose control. Let it be the light shining bright, unlocking potential beyond belief, taking flight. As we gather together in this sacred space, embracing transformation with grace. Life coach Malachi leads the way in unlocking potential.